Thank you. So most of you know me. I've been here for way too long now. I can't even remember when I started. But for the new members, a little bit about myself. As Jeff said, I'm the group's real estate attorney. I'm also the chair of the vice president this year of the Fairfield County Bar Association, and I'm the chair of the real estate committee for the Bar Association. I have been on the committee or chaired the committee that has written the last probably 12 years worth of real estate contracts. I started in this field in 2000, 20 years ago. I started practicing in my own right 12 years ago. So all that just to say that I have a fair amount of experience, and although I'd like to say I've seen it all, the one thing that I love about this particular job is that things never seem to cease to amaze me. There's always some sort of a crazy quirk. There's always some puzzle problem that we have to solve. And it's all honestly about working out of the box and thinking out of the box to try to salvage deals or try to make something happen for a client that they really, really want, even when that's perhaps not what you would recommend. I'm trying to think of what to do for this presentation. I thought that I should talk about something. I talked about commercial leases. I talked about residential leases. I've talked about different things, but I wanted to do something that's topical. And what's more topical than in 2020 than COVID? Let's talk about death and pandemics. So what I thought I'd talk about is some of the things that we're dealing with right now in our area in the real estate field. And I'll talk about two types of ownership, right? Or not so much ownership, but two types of property dwellers. You have people that are buying and selling real estate, and then you have people that are leasing as landlords or tenants. On the purchase side, what we're seeing right now is tremendous pressure. One of the things that we talked about just a few minutes ago in the breakout groups is that we're seeing still a tremendous demand. A lot of people moved from New York to this area, to Lower Fairfield County, when they had some money to just buy properties for cash. There was a tremendously low inventory at the time, so turnaround times were great. As Jeff mentioned, one of the things that we're seeing now is that people who might not have been in a position to just jump and purchase a property are now making plans to do so. So they're selling something else, trying to get something under contract, their existing apartment or home in the city, and then they're planning to move to our area. So we are expecting that there is going to be a second wave of this, probably at some point in mid to late January. There's a little bit of a lull right now, but not too much. So we're probably going to see the same pressures on buyers. What kind of pressures? Realtors convincing people to waive their contingencies, their mortgage contingencies. Something called Hubbard clauses. A Hubbard clause is when you make your purchase conditional on the sale of another home. So if you need money from your sale for the purchase, realtors are discouraging people to do that. And the reason they're doing it is not just because they're mean, but they're doing it because buyers who are looking at multiple offers might not want to take a chance that your house in the city won't sell in time. So there's tremendous pressures. I've seen people pressured to waive their inspection contingencies, which is something near and dear to Steve's heart there. It's incredibly dangerous. In the right context, you may want to take that risk, but they need to talk to the attorney to make sure they understand what they're waiving and what the risks are before they do that. On the other side of that coin, we're seeing systemic delays, and I mean systemic. Mostly, again, related to COVID. You used to be able to go to the town hall and do a title search in a day. So if I ordered the title search from my title company, even for a property where the lot will go back to like 1600, I could usually get it within 3 days to a week. If I asked for a favor, I could usually get it done within a day or two. Now, it'll probably take 2 weeks at best. If I need a municipal search, that's where somebody would go to the town hall and hit every department. What does the building department show? Are there open permits? What does the fire marshal's office show? Is there an oil tank that was there that might have leaked? That sort of thing now will take 3 to 4 weeks, best case, because they have to hit every department. Everything is by appointment only. It takes forever. Without those things, title companies can't get the policies to the banks can't review the application, and the banks are swamped anyway. So people are giving really aggressive timelines on their purchases to try to make their offer look as appealing as possible, and then they can't meet those deadlines. So again, it would be a great idea for them to talk to the attorney up front before they sign the offer so that they can put realistic timelines in there. It's far easier for me as the seller's attorney, to convince my seller to give you more time from the start than to then have to tell them week after week they need an extension, they need another extension, they need another extension, because it freaks sellers out. So that's ownership. On the leasing side, we're also seeing a lot of scary things. As you might have known, there are eviction moratoriums. So for landlords, especially small landlords that might have one apartment that they own or their old smaller house when they upgraded that they're renting, they have not been able to evict a non-paying tenant. This has been going on since about March. There are two separate moratoriums. One is a Connecticut eviction moratorium. That is set to expire technically, we'll see what happens, but it's set to expire January 1st. It is not automatic and it is not absolute. There are circumstances where a landlord can evict a tenant. So even for non-payment of rent in certain situations. So if you know a landlord that has been struggling with this, where the tenants just haven't been paying, that would actually be a good referral. I may not be able to help them, but I may be. It depends on the circumstances of the case. There is a second moratorium that is a federal moratorium from the CDC. I'm still trying to figure out why the CDC did this as opposed to a number of other federal agencies, but we do have a federal moratorium. That one is set to expire right now on December 31st. Also, it is not automatic. So I know a ton of landlords that have been thinking that these are foregone conclusions, that there's nothing I can do. I just have to sit here and wait as my own credit is ruined, because if I have a mortgage and I haven't been able to make these payments, they report me. There may be things that they can do, so that would be a good referral. There is also, or I should say there was, something called the Temporary Rental Housing Assistance Program in Connecticut. They've been overwhelmed, and last week they just quote unquote put it on pause. So if you go on their website, it actually says that it has been paused temporarily. But that used to be something where a landlord can get some compensation if the tenant would cooperate. The tenant had to fill in a bunch of things the landlord could do, but if they had a positive relationship by the time that they got to that point, there might be some funds that they can get. If you're a tenant and you're struggling with your landlord, same thing. That would be a good referral, because in many cases we can't stop any possible evictions. There has also been a stay on most foreclosure cases. That will probably come to an end at some point, I predict in 2021. So if you know someone who's facing foreclosure, we might be able to help them. It's also a great referral for me, because oftentimes that might also end up being a referral for George Weber, because this is a situation where a lot of clients just kind of look at that and say, well, I need foreclosure defense, which may, in some circumstances, that's the perfect tool. In other circumstances, that's kind of putting a Band-Aid on a just gaping wound. And instead, it would be better to look at an overall, to just take an overall look at what their financial situation is. And maybe foreclosure is not the best alternative. Sometimes bankruptcy is actually a better tool.
2 minutes, Alex.
Yeah, that's the situation. Just very briefly, what are other good referrals? Well, again, anyone buying or selling, anybody handling financing properties, landlord and tenant disputes on either side, family issues, or people that have bought a piece of property together and there's a problem, there's a disagreement, one wants to sell, the other doesn't. Those are all great referrals. Foreclosure defense, any condo issues, especially small condos, they are often find themselves victim to the fact that if you have 5 units and 1 or 2 stop paying their common charges, that could be detrimental to them. They can't do anything because there's no funding for even replacing or putting a patch on the roof. Land use issues. If you're looking to build, the city is giving you a hard time. Boundary disputes, or especially right now, this time of year, we're dealing with a lot of tree disputes. Oh, you need to cut this thing down, it's going to fall on my house. I'm not cutting it down. Something like that, we can get involved and stop the fighting, because the lawyers can just resolve the issue. construction issues with both on the part of the contractors and also homeowners issues, having issues with their contractors, tax appeals, all of those are great referrals. So I think I'm right at 10 minutes, but if you have other questions, I would love to do a one-on-one with you and catch up. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex. We have time for one question, so whoever has it, jump in.
Can I ask the question?
Yes.
Alex, quick question. I've been asked to testify against the other contractor who screwed up a lot. They have a mold issue for the entire two-story apartment. And if I testify against him, can I get sued by this contractor?
Not normally, as long as you defame him. But the thing that I would say is, because you're going to be testifying under oath, you would have the same risk. So if you lie under oath, you're facing perjury. So if you're telling the truth, that would be a defense to something like that. So
they have the mold company, you know, saying what happened there.
The other thing that you can do, Marek, is have them subpoena you before you testify. Don't just go in voluntarily. Have the person that wants you to testify subpoena you, and then you don't have a choice. It wasn't that you voluntarily defamed anyone. You had a legal obligation to testify.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. All right. Thank you very much, Alex. Appreciate that. Nice job today.